With just a few days left before the Delaware Marathon, it is time to fine-tune the marathon pacing strategy. Cheers, y'all. How's it going? If you have been following along with my training for the Delaware Marathon, especially over the last few weeks, you know that I've spent a lot of time in my own head just going back and forth over what is my strategy gonna be, what's my goal time gonna be, how am I gonna handle the elevation, especially those climbs early on in the race, etc. Just a lot of details to mull over before putting together that final perfect race pace strategy. And one thing that I am very excited about to be able to take advantage of for this race is Garmin's Pace Pro tool. This is something that's existed for a while. I've run with Garmin watches for a while, but didn't have a watch that was capable of taking full advantage of this tool. Basically, what it allows you to do is put in the course details, put in the course map for the marathon, and then it analyzes the distance and the elevation changes throughout the race. Lets you tweak a few details to kind of put in what your goal time is, etc. We'll go over some of those details, but then spits out a specific strategy for you to follow, a pacing strategy throughout the entire race based on real-time elevation changes. So adjusting your pace throughout the race to handle some of those hills that are gonna come up. Like I said, a tool that I've heard a lot about in the past, but just never been able to take full advantage of. And I am very excited to be giving it a try for the Delaware Marathon, especially with those hills that are gonna be coming up early on. I've got the new Garmin Fenix 7, so I finally have a watch that's capable of running this tool during the race. But basically what it'll do is once you create the pacing plan, you can save it to your watch. You can create it either on the computer or on your phone, save it, share it with the watch, and then when you start the race on your watch, regardless of what data screen you're looking at, every split, it will give you an update. Hey, here's your current pace, here's your goal pace for the next split, and here's how you're doing so far in the race based on your goal, how far ahead or behind of your goal you are currently. There will also be a data screen which you can look at on your watch throughout the entire run that will tell you what your current goal pace is, how much distance is left in your current split, and then again, it will show you how far ahead or behind of your current pace goal you are, and that will update in real time, again, based off of your current effort, your current performance. So I do think it's a lot of information. I'm gonna try, I think, during the race not to focus on having that data screen up all the time, but I do think it will be incredibly helpful to get those alerts at specific intervals, specific splits throughout the race saying, hey, you're coming up to an uphill, here's your goal for that uphill, or hey, you're gonna be downhill for a while, here's the goal that you should be shooting for. So really, really excited to be diving into this tool, but since this is my first time taking advantage of it, I thought I would walk you through the process as well. It's all through Garmin Connect, which is free to use. If you have a Garmin watch, obviously there's a lot more features that you can take advantage of, but I'll just kind of walk through how to create the pacing strategy and kind of the information that I'm mulling over in my head as I put the finishing touches on my race strategy. All right, so I'm just gonna shift down to my computer. You can see I am on my Garmin Connect dashboard, but the first thing that I'm gonna go ahead and do is go under training. Now, I'm not gonna go directly to Pace Pro pacing strategies. These are the strategies that you already have saved. What I'm actually gonna do is go ahead and go to courses. Don't need to use my location. And all you have to do is search the location where you're gonna be running. So I'll be in Wilmington, Delaware. And we can click search, and you basically just wanna get it kind of around where the start and finish for your race is gonna be, which is right about here for me. Course type, I'm gonna filter it so that it's just running courses, and then distance. We'll go ahead and up that filter. You can see it already shows up. I favorited a Delaware Marathon course, but just to show you kind of how this works. So for any popular races, chances are you're gonna find someone who has already created this. You can also, you see this option right here, create your own course where you add step-by-step directions. But for the most part, if you're running an established race, you'll be able to find someone else who has already created this distance. So I'm gonna go ahead and go to this Delaware Marathon course. You can see the elevation profile right here, see the map laid out in front of you, and then you can go ahead and click Create Pace Pro Strategy. So from here, we're gonna put in our goal. I think I'm locking it in at a 3:35 is what I'm gonna shoot for. So we'll just go 3:35 flat, and we'll click Next. All right, so we have 3 hours, 35 minutes for this race. Now you have some options in terms of customizing your pacing strategy. You can see it splits out some defaults, breaking the race down into mile splits. And again, these goal split times are based off of the elevation that you're going to be experiencing during those miles. You can also see the elevation change during each. So like right here, obviously 8:22, that's a much slower pace, but you can see we're climbing 105 feet during that section, during that mile split. So very, very helpful to kind of look at that information. But then, like I said, you have the option to fine tune some of these details. So for me personally, I tend to like to run a little bit of a negative split, nothing too crazy. So let's just see how much, we'll click save, see how much that impacted the pacing strategy. So starting much slower now, but then finishing substantially faster. Okay, so I am definitely a little bit worried about picking it up quite this much. So like I said, I do try to negative split, but like a very casual negative split. So let's go ahead and just drag this just a little bit further back. And you can see this seems a little bit more doable, much more comfortable with these options. And then what you can also do is decide, I'm gonna leave this, the uphill effort, right in the middle, but you can also select, would you prefer to take the uphills harder or slower and make up more time on the downhill is basically what you're saying here. If you set it at easier, that means that your downhill efforts are gonna need to be much harder, much faster, so you can make up the time that you're losing on the uphills, or you can choose to push through a little bit harder on the uphills, but I am just gonna go ahead and leave that right in the middle for now. The other option that I like is you can have it set to just put the splits at every mile. You can also choose every kilometer, but obviously the elevation profile can change significantly during each mile. You can see the average, how much elevation you're gaining or losing, or you can also set the splits to specific elevation changes. So now it's gonna split the race up into where the most significant elevation changes are gonna happen. And then you can go down here and see. So this first split is 6 miles. During the first 6 miles, you're only gaining 24 feet of elevation, but then the next half mile, you're gaining 86. So your pace is gonna slow substantially during that half mile. Coming back down, going back up 100 feet during this half mile. So again, it's letting you know where the most significant climbs are and basing your splits off of that. I like this idea because it allows you to adjust more in real time during like the actual changes in elevation. But the one thing that I do see as being not necessarily annoying, but again, just getting to the stress of running a marathon is if I'm getting an alert every half mile, every third of a mile, etc., that's pretty constant notifications that are just flashing at you like, hey, here's how you're doing based on your goal. And I'm the type of person that likes to kind of have in the back of my head what my goals are, but not solely focused on it every second, every step of every race. Where I think this could be helpful is to kind of study this guide so that I know when the big elevation changes are coming. But then I think what I'll likely end up doing is just share this every mile split with my watch. These are the alerts that I'll be getting. This is what I'll actually try to follow during the race. But like I said, it'll just be a little bit less kind of real-time updates, a little bit less stress, less to worry about during the race. But to each his own. I think some runners would prefer that kind of more precise minute by minute, elevation change by elevation change update on how they're doing and what they should be shooting for. But just to let you know that that's an option as well. But you can tinker with this as much as you like. Like I said, there's tons of options, even just subtle drags, subtle movements of each of these. I might change the uphill effort just a little bit, we'll see. But you can continue to fine tune this. And then whenever you're ready, you just go ahead and click on update and it saves it right here. Obviously, I would probably want to change the name of one of these so I know which one is which. But then all you have to do is once it's created, if you have the Garmin Connect app on your phone, it will share it directly to your phone, or you can click send to device and you can see I can share it with my watch right here. Once it's synced to my watch, it's as easy as just starting that activity or starting that Pace Pro strategy when I'm getting ready to start the race, and it will automatically include those data screens for you throughout the entirety of the effort. This is something, again, I have to play around with. This is a brand new watch for me, so I already am planning to tinker a bit with the data screens I have available during the race. I tend to like to keep it simple. A lot of times I honestly just have just my heart rate on the face. Again, it's less stress, less to worry about, just a number that's on there, but I'm not focused solely on how far have I gone, what's my pace right now, etc. Just something easy to kind of look at to just gauge my effort level. And then when I need to, I can cycle through the necessary data screens. But very easy to complete, very easy to send to your watch. You can create these on your phone through the Garmin Connect app as well. It works very much in the same way. I just think it's a little bit easier on a larger screen to do. But yeah, very simple. I am definitely gonna spend the next couple days continuing to tinker with this feature. 335, I'm very hopeful, is an attainable goal. As I've said, I'm certainly worried just about the elevation early on, the climbing early on in the race, and what that's gonna do to my legs for the tail end, but I'm feeling good. I am feeling trained and ready for the Delaware Marathon, and I'm just so excited to get down there, get my bib, get to the expo, etc. All of those last minute things to prepare for this race. But we are just a few days away from the race. So at this point, it's just fine tuning the strategy, packing my gear, going over those last minute details, putting together the race playlist, which is essential, something that I put a lot of thought and time into as well. But it's just those last minute things that start to build the excitement, build the anticipation for the race. So for those of you who have been following along this entire time, I hope you've enjoyed a lot of these updates. Obviously, I will continue to update you throughout race weekend, as well as afterwards on how everything went. If you'd like to follow along live or get like more real-time updates about the race, about the travel, the trip, the weekend, etc., feel free to follow me on Instagram at IRunOnBeer. I tend to just post more in the moment updates there, but very, very excited for this race, and I thank you all for following along. If you're not already, I hope you'll go ahead and click that subscribe button and give the video a thumbs up to help other folks find it as well. I've been happy to see a handful of people who are also running the Delaware Marathon respond to that kind of course preview video I put out a few weeks ago. Looking forward to hopefully seeing a handful of you at the starting line, or even better, if I can see you at the finish and enjoy a celebratory beer. But thank you as always for tuning in. I hope your training is going well. I hope anyone who's running this weekend is as excited as I am for their race. Thank you as always for tuning in, and I'll see you around. Cheers.